Alright, so I was asked by a fellow simmer to do a sort of rundown of how I made my contact makeups. And I'm going to start off by saying that you are probably, if you haven't already, going to have to look up and install, it's called a .dds plugin, and all it does is it enables your graphics software to open the image files that are required for The Sims and like any associated CC, which is the .dds file. And basically, I always start off with the PSD. This is actually an old IMVU template that I had. I don't think I ever actually put this one in my catalog, but it made some nice contacts, so yeah. I just scaled it more appropriately for the template for The Sims. I tend to work in layers, so I have sort of a layer for my sclera. It's not perfect, but once you put the eye texture over it, you really don't notice. But I think what she was having trouble with was this part here, and it can be a bit tricky the first couple times you do it. But I'm going to go ahead and load up the Sims Resource Workshop, create a new project, and when you're making contacts, you want to select Makeup, and we're just going to let this load up. Might take a few. Okay, there we go. And find, it doesn't have to be male or, well, it can be either male or female, but find like one of the costume makeups is what you want to use for contacts. So I'm going to look for, these are Elder. I just by default use the adult template for some reason. I don't think you have to, but that's just sort of the one I picked by instinct. Adult female. Okay. I'm gonna start the new project. You can name it whatever you like and all that. I'm gonna zoom in on her here. Ah! Oh, come on. There we go. Okay, now from here you're going to go over to your Textures tab. Face Overlay is where you're going to import your texture, which is this one here, where your actual like eye texture. And see if I can find the original. I'm going to import, and from here I'm going to browse to the texture file, which I just named i2.dds. Import that and press done. And it'll look like that until you put in your mask, which is where your color mask comes in, which is not this one. I'm sorry, I keep hopping around. Come on. Contact. Seriously. Yes, i2 map. And when you open DDS files, you're going to get this little dialog, at least in Photoshop you will. Just use your default settings and press OK. This is a color map here. This is what tells your game which color you select in creative style is going to go where on your item, which is standard RGB, red, green, and blue, and there's yellow when you want 4 channels. And those are just your like absolute, I think that absolute's the proper term, but you've got in Photoshop your values here. Like absolute green is going to be red 0, green 255, and blue 0. So that is one of your colors. Red, same thing, it's just 255 in the red slot and 0 in the other two. And blue, which is what I used for my sclera. Same exact thing. It's just 255 in the blue slot. And this, I'm going to go ahead and import. You can see how this template here actually has the color channels with the blue and the yellow. This one doesn't have green. Huh. Yeah, anyway, sorry. I2Map, just a simple name for it. You can see how the texture's now showing up, and what you can do to change the values for these. There are tint color A, tint color B, and you can tweak these a little bit to your liking. Say you want like a light blue eye. Go ahead and change that. And I like to do 2 colors, that way you can vary your eyes a little bit, I guess. Like a little more saturation the closer to the middle. You see what I mean though? You can have all kinds of fun with that. Yeah, third tint here is your sclera. And that's sort of how I make my alien eyes. But you can make that any color you like if you want to. And that is sort of how the color maps work. I hope that was helpful to you. I know I'm kind of hard to follow sometimes, but yeah. Any other questions? Feel free to ask me.